Do you know that compared to the average business owner or manager, you and I are somewhat experts in AI? Even just being aware of what's happening week to week makes us ahead of the curve compared to them. In fact, you'll know that there's a huge opportunity right now for MSPs to advise their clients in a consultative capacity about how to roll out AI in the best way within their business. And right now, I've got a secret weapon for you. My special guest today is an expert in AI, a true authority, and he's going to tell you how ordinary business owners and managers feel about it. The more you understand, the easier you'll find it to sell them your AI consulting services.
My name is John Bambanek. I'm a cybersecurity professional with my own firm and author of Lies, Damn Lies, and AI, kind of based on my PhD work at the University of Illinois.
And that's such a great title of a book. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, John. We're going to talk about AI attitudes of ordinary business owners and managers. So the people that MSPs want to reach, are they using AI as much as we're using AI? Is AI really a big thing for ordinary businesses out there? Or is it just something that in the channel, because we're talking about Copilot and ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude every single day, is it a bigger thing for us than it is for them? That's what I hope that you're going to be able to answer for us, John. But first of all, just tell us a little bit about your work as a cybersecurity expert. So what do you actually do and what kind of research have you done on AI?
So for 26 some odd years, right, as just threat researchers, how criminals abuse technology, right, and how they go about doing the work of extracting dollars from our wallets, whether it's personal wallets or business wallets. I mean, I tend to focus on financial fraud. And every time there's a new evolution of technology, right, there's new ways that people steal money, right? You know, a few years ago, we were talking about cryptocurrency. There's a whole class of frauds and malicious activity that was enabled by that on top of the benefits of decentralized currency, right? Everything comes with its costs and benefits, and human beings being what human beings are, there's always a subset of people that's finding new and innovative ways to extract people from their money.
Yes, of course. And as we know, MSPs are there to help build up that cushion between those criminals and their end targets. By the by, I'm reading a book at the moment, which I can almost guarantee you've read. It's called "This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends" by Nicole.
Yes, by Nicole Polarized, I think. Yes,
that's it. Yeah. So what a terrifying book! I think every MSP should read it. It's a very long read. It's taken me quite a few weeks to get through, but it's essentially about state-sponsored cyber hacking. It's a terrifying book, and I'm sure you've hoovered that and many of them up. What was the other one I read a few years ago by Kevin Mitnick? It was his book of how he got started hacking back in the 70s, which is a really entertaining read, especially when he became a pen tester. I'll go and look that up after the interview, but great book. So let's talk about ordinary people then. So ordinary business owners and managers who are out there running dentists, veterinarians, they're running manufacturing plants, they're CPAs, they're lawyers. To them, is AI as big for them as it is for us? Because obviously they must have heard about ChatGPT and they must have heard about everything because it's been like 3-4 years since it exploded. But is it as big to them as it is to us?
I think it's kind of a mixed bag, and really it's kind of polarized. Now that you asked that question, you've got some who are well deep in it and think it's going to revolutionize everything. You've got others who are thinking the Matrix and the Terminator will become reality, right? The truth is somewhere in the middle, right? But we're kind of in a societal time where people are really passionate and energetic, either to the positive or the negative. So I think for like lawyers, for example, right? There's a couple of lawyers who went off to the races and, you know what, I'm going to automate the tedium of writing pleadings, and gotten in trouble because they cited cases that didn't exist. But as a class, other lawyers, by nature, lawyers are who you get when things get wrong. So they're risk averse by nature. There are many that are like, I'm not going to touch this stuff ever because it's too risky, but it's kind of, there's no one in the middle. It's either you're really hot or you're really cold about AI. There's very few people who kind of like, hey, might work well here, might not work well there. There's not a lot of balance.
Yeah, and do you know what? I see that with MSPs as well. For every MSP I meet who's so into AI that they're vibe coding their own PSA. You know, I've met people that have done that, which just explodes my mind, because you couldn't have done that 2 years ago. That I also meet those who hate the fact, for example, that Microsoft is baking Copilot into everything, right down to, as you and I know, it's on the keyboard on the Copilot Plus PCs. It's just before the interview, you and I were chatting, and we were saying it's in PowerPoint. It's in it's appearing within applications. For those business owners who are perhaps on that I don't like AI side, do you think the fact that it's being forced into the tools they use every day, do you think that's going to change their attitudes, or do you think that's just going to make them cross their arms and almost push it away a little bit harder?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, AI right now is in search for business models, really, is what it comes down to. And part of the baking it into everything is to see how people use it. I mean, it's a pervasive sucking up data, because AI needs to be constantly fed. And it needs to be constantly fed more. So, I mean, there's kind of a symbiosis there in the sense of, Microsoft wants Copilot on everything because they need all the data to make their models better. But, I think like MSPs, right? Microsoft, Google, all the companies, right? They like taking it 99% of the way there. The final mile is for various service providers. And that's what you're seeing with the explosion of AI firms out there, where they're wrappers around ChatGPT or Claude or what have you, to create services like Canva or Motion or whatever, to go figure out what the business models are that really will sell and be the next big thing to make people's lives better. So I think, for the innovative MSPs out there, it's a green field. If you can come up with an idea that you think you can sell to your customers, you can make a lot of money. But the people who are like, hey, no, we're not going to do this. There's a handful of CEOs and small business owners out there who will want to say, how do I get this stuff out of my organization and keep my data processes, company safe from it?
Yeah, well, I guess actually, if you look at that, there's money to be made keeping AI out of a business, isn't there? There's money to be made in blocking access to AI tools, and I don't know if you can actually physically extract it out of the sort of the 365 ecosystem. Probably not.
The problem with totally disabling AI is that essentially you're dealing with monopoly companies who are telling you what you can and can't do. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but I haven't. The one is, don't buy a Copilot enabled laptop or PC. I mean, I'm talking to you on a MacBook, but I'm sure Apple has their own AI plays as well, and there's plenty of AI in phones now. So I'm not entirely sure that there's much of a market to be a curmudgeon, but you can still buy dumb phones out there for people who really don't want a smartphone.
Yes,
it's
yes,
just a little bit harder to get.
Yeah, those old Nokia phones are selling pretty well, I hear. If you were an MSP, John, so if you run a managed service provider and you were looking at AI as it stands, and as we know, we're on minute one of hour one of day one, and as you say, it's a green field, and there's just opportunity because we haven't yet really settled into exactly what the AI business models will be. What would you do right now to make money from AI? So would you sell AI consulting because you know more than the people that you're consulting with? Would you offer to build applications? What would you do?
Well, I don't know that I would offer applications, right? As like my personal expertise is cybersecurity, so I focus around cybersecurity use cases. If you're just saying, hey, I'm going to do AI to do something I really don't know, that's where things probably will fail over the long term, because just in life and in business, there are no shortcuts. On a long enough time scale, I'm going to beat an uneducated person on cybersecurity, even if they're enabled by AI, because these tools will fail. And I'm smart enough to be able to figure out when they fail. So I think it's a question of like, if you're an MSP, is do what you know and do what your customers need, and solve problems. All right. All business is about solving problems, right? And I mentioned tedium, right? Is one use case. Is ChatGPT or all these tools are great for automating away tedium, right? Managing your calendar. I just don't know that you're going to make $1 billion company for managing your calendar. But, outsourcing, that's where I got to figure out, well, do I meet with this person at 9 or 2 p.m. and managing, I have customers all over the world. Just managing meetings and time zones is a pain in the hind, right? So I certainly think there's plenty of automating tedium that can be done. But I mean, MSPs are there to solve a business. Is, hey, a dentist wants to be a dentist. They don't want to maintain Office 365. If you could solve that problem for them at a price point they're willing to pay for, great. If it's a dentist who wants to say, how can I make better crowns using artificial intelligence. I don't know enough about dentistry to speak to that, and you know enough about that. Maybe you can, create something that somebody will buy. But
Yeah.
with technology, technology is so painful, and like the last mile is left to the end user, whether it's a business owner or a consumer. I think there's always money to be made helping make technology less painful.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And ironically, my partner is a dental nurse, and we were talking about change in business. She's been doing it a long time, 20 odd years. And she was saying in her business, what's changed is the technology's got smaller, but it's still the same. The drills are the same. They've got a bit smaller and a bit more powerful and cheaper, but they're the same. And when I described to her the amount of change, just take something like cybersecurity. Even in the 9 years I've been in the channel, cybersecurity is unrecognizable today to what it was in 2016, obviously. That pace of change, I think ordinary business owners don't realize how much change and the pace of change in the channel, not just cybersecurity, but now AI, and who knows what the next thing will be. Let me come on to my final question, John, which is I want you to look into the future. It's the crystal ball question. And I always ask this of any AI expert I get onto YouTube or onto the podcast, just because your entire life is working around AI and looking at it. And I guess you're reading the research papers, and actually to have someone that has a cybersecurity view of AI is especially important. Where do you think this is going? And cast your eye years ahead into the future. I guess we can all see that the cyber criminals are going to use AI more and more and more because it's making their lives easier. But where do you think all of this is going in the next few years?
Well, I would say every evolution of technology, back to the printing press. It's all had benefits, but we've been stealing and killing from each other since our earliest documented histories. It allows people to commit crime over larger distance at greater scale with less accountability. Artificial intelligence, won't be any different, right? Is accountability and transparency are real big problems in AI. And often some of the first biggest use cases of new technology are by criminals, right? And I'll give an example relevant to small, medium business of authorizing transactions, right? A business owner will call into the office. I need to wire $50,000, $500, whatever an appropriate dollar amount is, right? I can now impersonate, a voice video persona with credibility to sound like anybody else, and, assume an identity to cause transactions to occur. And the one that happens, or the one that occurs, I think of it was in Hong Kong. It's a $25 million US transaction because somebody impersonated not just the CFO of the organization, but a couple of other people in a Zoom call, because we're all used to video messaging now. And, kind of a core security thing is authenticating is somebody who they say they are. And that's been an unsolved problem. And it keeps getting worse because we keep putting more technology and abstracting away. Because, I wouldn't want to flash my driver's license, in this podcast.
Yeah.
You wouldn't either, right? Because it slows things down. We want things to happen faster, but they also are a little bit riskier, certainly in the short term. Eventually, we'll solve those problems, but it usually takes us a good 10 years from a cybersecurity standpoint to go figure out where the problems are and at least be able to create products and services that people have to pay for. And the smaller you are, or the thinner the margins you are, the less able you are to protect yourself.
Yes, and of course, and in the 10 years we're solving that problem, those criminals have come up with new problems. It's a never-ending cycle, unfortunately. Thank you so much for coming onto this podcast, John. Just briefly tell us about your book, and for anyone that wants to talk to you, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. Kind of the inspiration for the title is a book from 50 years ago, AI, Lies, Damn Lies, and Statistics, right? And AI is basically statistics at its core. And people do lie and deceive with data, and convincingly. So there's a notion of AI being this great, hyper intelligent, always right thing, free of bias, which isn't true, because humanity is all throughout the AI process. So it's kind of it's not an entirely critical look, because there are great things that AI can do. There are great use cases for it. It's been very successful in healthcare, but kind of a more sober-minded assessment of where it can go well, where it goes wrong, what problems are still out there. For people who want to reach me, my firm is bambinetconsulting.com. You can find the book on Amazon. There's a landing page, I think, lies, damn lies, and AI.com as well.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.